EPG program in Japanese, paper 5, communication through translation, Honyaku Jiteno communication. I don't say welcome back here because this is a new series. Now we are starting module 18, learn while practicing, and the subject is patent. Distance Shinagara Gakusuru remains the same, but the subject is, or the domain is patent. This particular module is being done with the help of few of my trainees, and I have taken maximum help in this case from the youngest among them is Surbhi, others are Rajat and Anu. Starting with the recapitulation from the previous module, though it's not directly related because the previous modules, two modules in fact were related to English to Japanese. What we found over there as learning that basically the module, both the modules showed that the application of systematic approach is important, and the module showed that devising the combination of techniques is helpful. It's not so complicated if you get used to it. Non-native of target language can also render good quality even in English to Japanese translation pair. Just they need to follow the guidelines. Apply the combinations in a religious manner few number of times, devise your own guidelines thereafter. It helps, and the caution was to develop the habit of rechecking, particularly in the case of English to Japanese, by another person, preferably by the native speaker. And I would say that even for Japanese to English translation, our training program has proved it, or we have very clearly seen there that if there is a check by another person, maybe a fellow translator, it does help in improving the quality of the translation as well as improving the quality level of the individual concerned. In this module, we are introducing application of translation techniques, and the two areas covered are patent translation, that is the specialized domain, and simplification of the procedure. We have tried to simplify the procedure here because we are getting into almost 1/3 only is remaining, so 2/3 it's the last, we are quite close to 2/3 of the complete modules which are to be covered in the translation. It's necessary to understand that all these procedures which have been introduced so far, or the techniques that have been introduced, they are not to put burden on the individual. They're practically these techniques should help the individuals to deliver in a comfortable manner and in an accurate manner, and the readability should also improve, and maybe even the style also. For example, domain specific style is able to, he or she is able to render. The objective, as I just mentioned, is the professional pursuit, that is defining way forward for the practitioners while attempting new domain. Guiding principles are follow the systematic approach through combination of techniques, though the combination of techniques remain dynamic. Look for the way to handle deviation, because the combination which you have done once may not be workable in the other case, and render accurate translation with the reasonable readability even in the case of patents. Outcome all through has so far been same. We are targeting practicing scholars of translation, sailing through, who would be able to sail through the patent translation. That means this particular module or this particular exercise is basically a CBM, the confidence building measure. Generating realistic theories through practice remains the same, and trainer's trainer also remains the same as outcome. This module covers, or from here onwards, we cover basics about the translation of patent and some terminology or the related terminology in this particular domain. The first thing which comes to one's mind, what is patent? And when we see in Japanese, it's called Tokyo Tawa. Let's see first what is this Tokyo Tawa. Let's see the behavior of the constituting elements. Tokyo Tawa has got only two elements. Tokyo is the noun and Tawa, and when you say Tokyo Tawa, even if the question mark is not there, in Japanese it is quite understandable that Tokyo Tawa is a question. Now let's see the different usages of Tawa. The dictionary gives three usages of Tawa. First is Tegiya Medai Nadono Shudayo Arawasu. Second is Tawa Otsuyo Meta Ikata Toshite Mochirareru. Then Odoroki Ikari Kando Nadono Kimochi Arawasu. And the English translation for these is expressing themes such as definition or proposition. Then Tawa is used as expression, putting emphasis. And the third is expresses feelings such as surprise, anger, or emotion. I have been telling in my class all the time that there is each element or each concept has got a core meaning. So if we look at the core meaning of Tawa, to is quoting what is being said before that, and Y is for emphasis. So if we go by the core meaning, the meaning remains same in the case of all the three. In the first one, it is, it's expressing Tawa. So it's expressing means something is not said and you are trying to express it explicitly. That is what Tawa will help. The second one very clearly says it's expressing with emphasis, and the third one, whether it is surprise or anger or emotion, you are quite you try to emphasize over there, and that's why it is Tawa. So the uses one, going by the dictionary, is more applicable here. So to understand the uses one, let's pick up two examples. DNA Tawa nan desu ka? And the translation, possible translation could be what is DNA, and DNA is, that means your DNA is, and then you are translating it. If I say DNA Tawa nan desu ka, then the translation is obviously what is DNA. But if I say DNA Tawa, then the options are what is DNA and DNA is. Similarly, Akaji Tawa shunyu yori shishitsu ga oi koto desu. This is the complete sentence. So deficit means spending is more than the revenue. But if I simply say Akaji Tawa, it will mean what is Akaji or what is deficit, and it can also be said deficit is. So if nan desu ka is given, then it is a very obvious question. If nan desu ka is not given and a question mark is given, it is again a question. But if nothing is given and it's only Tawa, then also it implies that there is a question. And when I say Tokyo Tawa, it can also mean what is patent, and it can also be translated as patent is. Now let's see the equivalence for the definition of patent. We have already seen the patent Tokyo Tawa. What is patent? The definition is Tokyo Tawa hore no sadameru tetsuzuki ni yori kuni ga hatsumesha matawa sono shoukeiji ni taishi Tokyo ke no fuyo suru gyosei koi de aru. And this is the English translation. Let's apply 5W1H to capture the frame. Take the help of units. Again 5W1H to get the transposition done. If we look at the complete sentence, it starts with Tawa and ends at dearu. Something Tawa dearu. I'm asking nan dearu. That's a question, very natural question. And the answer is koi dearu. It's covered as a verb. Then I will say donna koi dearu. It's a gyosei koi dearu because it's alone here. So gyosei tekina koi dearu. So it's an adjective. Nani ga, no answer. Nanni taishite. So obviously there is one subject here, Tokyo Tawa. So it's addressing to the topic. Being an adjective, the gyosei is kept aside for the time being to help simplify the sentence while capturing the macro frame. And the balance comes Tokyo Tawa koi dearu as macro frame. And the translation for this will be Tokyo Tawa is patent is, koi dearu is act. So we are picking up patent is act. One is can be dropped. Now let's try to catch the micro frame. And nani o suru, fuyo suru. Nani o fuyo suru, Tokyo ke no fuyo suru. It's an object. And if you are giving to someone, then nani or dare ga, kuni ga fuyo suru. Nanni taishite, again it goes back to the topic Tokyo Tawa, and it comes as kuni ga Tokyo ke no fuyo suru. That's a micro frame. And the equivalent is country grants patent rights. Let's apply now, there is another verb there, so let's apply 5W1H to see if we can catch another micro frame. Nani o suru, sadameru, verb. Nani or darega, hore no or horega, subject. Nani taishite, Tokyo Tawa, and it becomes hore ga sadameru or hore no sadameru. So microframe, and the equivalent is law and ordinances established. In the previous slide we saw that verb is one indicator or one parameter that can give you some hint about how many frames you can capture from there. For the remaining part, let's break it down into the units. Tetsuzuki ni yori is Tetsuzuki replaceable, Niyori is fixed, so it's quasi universal. Hatsumesha matawa shokejin nitaishi, nitaishi is fixed, so again it's quasi universal, and the equivalents are given here: through procedure and to inventor or its assignee. Now go to let's go to the next step. Tokyo Towa is patent is. The macroframe was koidearu, so Tokyo is an act, or Tokyo is act here. Then microframe putting with it, there were two microframes, kuni ga Tokyo ken ofuyosuru and hore no sadameru. So hore ga sadameru, country grants patent rights, laws and ordinances establish. Units were Tetsuzuki ni yori, through procedure, and Hatsumesha matawa shokejin, shokejin was probably nitaishi, to inventor or its assignee. Now, since joining the frames and units as it is may not yield meaningful or desired flow, so let's try to again use 5W1H. I think I will have to take the help of Surbhi here to read it because it's small for me to read. The Japanese part, can you read out? Tokyo Towa.
Tokyo Towa, hore no sadameru tetsuzuki ni yori, kuni ga hatsumesha matawa sono shokei nin ni taishi, Tokyo ken o fuyosuru gyosei koi de aru.
Okay, now let's apply the 5W1H. We are talking about Tokyo, so it's Tokyo Towa going on the top. Donna monona no ka koi de aru is act. Donna koi de aru, it's fuyosuru koi desu. Nani o fuyosuru ka Tokyo ken o. Now if you see carefully and read from the top, it's coming, patent is act that grants, patent rights. The next question is dare ga fuyosuru, kuni ga. So is the act that country grants patent rights. Then nani ni or dare ni, it's hatsumesha matawa shoke ni nitaishi, is the act that country grants patent rights to inventor or its assignee. There are some other elements. Dono yoni, tetsuzuki ni yori, so through procedure. And donna tetsuzuki, hore o sadameru, so law and ordinances establish. So patent is act that country grants patent rights to inventor or its assignee through procedure, law and ordinance establishes. Now can we do some refining on that? Let's see. See, first was that gyose koi, so gyose can be added. That's very simple. So that is placing back the elements that were kept aside. And now see, can we do some degree of fine tuning? Patent is an administrative act and has been added here, wherein a country grants. It was this part which was missing in the previous sentence or previous translation, which we have derived in a mechanical manner. If we connect it by wherein, it gets connected well. So wherein a country grants patent rights to the inventor or its assignee through procedure established by law and ordinances. So this modification is a bit difficult, but if you read it now, you will notice that this was something you could have done yourself also. So segregating the topic in the beginning, it serves the purpose very clearly, and this topic applies all through. Macro and micro frames undergo inter and intra transpositioning to suit the needs of the target language. Here, that is replaced by wherein for improving the readability while joining the adjectival clause in the target language. The use of this wherein is very handy. It's very useful when you have when you are making a sentence and you are not able to connect it. Let's talk about the terminology used in the patent. So patent specific terminology and the expressions. Not much I'll explain on this because these are more or less fixed equivalents. So for understanding sake, yes, you must understand, but ultimately these are to be used as it is. So maybe understand it and then you will know the reason or the logic why it should be applied in this manner. For example, the first one is Sangyojono Ryo Khanose. Ryo Khanose is applicability or use possibility, Ryo Khanose, and Sangyojo is in the industry, so industrial applicability, and in this case Sangyojono is industrial, Ryo Khanose is use possible or possibility or applicability. So here we have two units, quasi-universal and universal, one quasi-universal and the other is universal. Then Hatsume no Shinki se. Now Hatsume no Shinki se, if you say Shinki se, it's very difficult to get the equivalent novelty, because how do you come to novelty for Shinki se is difficult. So in English, novelty of the patent is used as it is. So let's try to use that only. Hatsume no is of invention. So again, I would say that Hatsume no Shinki se can or should be considered as single unit. Next is Hatsume no Shimpose. Now this is difficult because Shimpose is how you progress. So inventive steps of invention, the equivalent is Hatsume no Shimpose. How the Shimpose happened in the Hatsume, it's referring to that. So it's a concept from English transferred into Japanese probably. So we will have to take it as it is. I have just explained Hatsume no Shimpose or Shinkise can be divided into two units also. Two units separately, but it does not serve any meaningful purpose. Therefore, I am repeating that these combination of words may be taken as single unit. It will be quite helpful in the case of patents. Let's see some other important terminology. The first one is, it comes on the top, Nihonkoku Tokyocho, and Nihonkoku is Japan and Tokyocho is patent office, and this word is available as it is a proper noun. So it comes as a single unit and is universal. Next is Tokyo Shitsugan Kokai. Now this is quite interesting. It's a combination of Tokyo Shitsugan Kokai. So what it means is Tokyo is Shitsugan, that means application, applied for, and Kokai means it's made open to the public. That means opening of the application of the Tokyo. So it's a difficult word to translate. But in English, this number 11, that is the unique code for the patents, stands for patent number. Now patent number, when it was probably taken from English to Japanese people probably found that patent number is actually combination of various things. It has got a number, it may be alphanumeric, and in Japanese or on Japan side, Tokyo Shitsugan Kokai is something they probably might have been using, so that has been put here. So while translating, patent number is fine, but if you think that this the individual may have to refer to Japan for some clarification on this patent, it might be advisable to use Tokyo Shitsugan Kokai in Roman also, because then it will give a complete sense to the person with whom you are seeking the further information. Then next is Kokai Tokyo Koho. It same stands for this also. The English equivalent for this is kind of application, means the category of application. Now I would also suggest that this also Kokai Tokyo Koho may be transliterated, given in Roman as of course single unit. Then Chonai Seri Bango. In fact, this is not so relevant number when the translation is done. It's basically to search the records in the patent office. So when the information, say if somebody has to consult the patent office, then of course this may be required. So it's patents or patent office internal number, and coming from Chonai's patent office, Seri Bango is a Japanese way of saying the serial number or the organized number. Then Shikibetsukigo is identification symbols. All these are coming as single unit and the universal. Now these are the all that we have discussed so far. In this particular category, that is in the second slide of this category, there are 5 in total single unit universal. This is Kokai Hi or Kokai B. This is publication date, and this may be translated as Kokai no Hi as single unit. Then Shinsa Seikyu is examination request. Kokusai Tokyo Bunri. So Kokusai is international, Tokyo is patent, and Bunri is classification. This is the usual meaning, but normally in international standards it's written like INT.CL. So international INT and CL. Shitsugan Bango is application number. This needs to be translated, and it's a single unit universal unit. Shitsugan B, this is already covered, and Shitsugan Jin is Shitsugan Shitashito, single unit universal. Hatsumesha is the inventor, so Hatsume Shitashito or Hatsume Shitamono. All items here can be categorized as domain specific universal units owing to the applicability. Now let's go to the next category or next set of terms. First is Dairi Nin Bengoshi. This is I've seen so far that at times it's only Dairi Nin coming, sometimes Bengoshi coming, and sometimes Dairi Nin Bengoshi both coming together. The English patent will have simple word attorney because we are into the patent only, so patent attorney need not be said there. So while translating, you can translate it as patent attorney also, and you can translate it as attorney also. Hatsume Hon Hatsume no Meisho. This is coming in the beginning, and the translation Hon Hatsume is this invention. No Meisho is the title. So title of invention, when in English it's said, it obviously refers to this invention. Hon Hatsume Hoho, method of invention. Tokyo Seikyu no Hai. This is Tokyo Seikyu. No, Seikyu is claim. So Tokyo Seikyu no Hai means patent claims certain things, and no Hai defines the scope of those claims. Seikyu is claim, as I just said. Hatsume no Shosai, Shosai no Setsume. This at times you may find as Hatsume no Shosai na Setsume, and at times Shosai no Setsume. Detailed explanation of the invention. This is again fixed single unit universal. This is comprehensive list. It is advisable to categorize even Hatsume no Shosai no Setsume as single unit for its applicability in the domain. Next is the headings and subheadings. Meisai show details. Meisai stands for detail and show is a document. This is too big. Kadai o kaiketsu suru tame no shudan. If you want to translate, I don't think there should be any problem. But since the translation in English is fixed and it's a subheading, it's called means to resolve the issue. So it's better that this translation is retained. Even otherwise, it will come to same only. Kadai o kaiketsuru is solving. So maybe in place of resolve, you say solving. Sometimes you may say finding solution for issues, and then you will say steps to find. So depends on you, but it's better to use the equivalent given here, that is the means to resolve the issue. Sangyojo no Ryobunya is industrial application field. Then Jurai no Gijitsu. Jurai can be translated in few ways, but the better is that you say conventional technology. As I said earlier, it is advisable to categorize even the longer one, that is Kadai o Kaiketsuru Tame no Shudan, as single unit for the applicability in the domain. Few more. Hatsume ga kaiketsu shiyoto suru kadai is issues that this invention aims to resolve. Then Jishire, it comes almost at the after the half portion of the patent, when the explanation has already been given. Jishire is implemented examples, so Jishishare. Then Hikakure, after the jishire, there is a comparative example. Hikakure, hikakusuru tameno re. Then hatsume no koka comes at the end. Effects of the invention. Effects of invention is okay. Again, as I said earlier, the long one, the hatsume ga kai ketsushio to suru kadai can be considered as single unit. Now let's go. Surbi, can you go to previous slide? Yeah. Let's see now some titles. How to translate titles? Hon hatsume no meisho is the title of the invention. Let's see some examples. Pyrorijin no seizo ho. This is the title of the invention. It's quite simple, and I think you can easily say pyrorilidin manufacturing method or manufacturing method of pyrorilidin. I have given here method of manufacturing pyrorilidin. Let's see how it comes. Pyrorijin no seizo ho. 5W1H questions. Nandeska, we are talking about a ho. Ho alone actually may mean sometimes a law or act also, but it's seizo ho, it's coming as a suffix, and suffix ho normally is method, so it's coming from the context. Donna ho, it's seizo ho, manufacturing method, it's a compound term and can be considered as unit. Nan no, pyrorijin no, so of pyrorilidin, and the translation comes as manufacturing of method pyrorilidin. So fine tuning has to be done, obviously. It's a method of manufacturing pyrorilidin. The suffix kanji, that is ho, I have explained. You have to be careful when depending upon the noun, the preceding noun, its meaning may change. If it is an act, then the context will very clearly define act. So normally it will be, if it is not act, normally it will be method only. Another title, Juden Seigyo Sochi Oyobi Juden Jikan Ensan Hoho. If you see carefully, it's Sochi is a noun, Hoho is again a noun, so A and B. But let's see how the techniques help. Juden Seigyo Sochi, charging control device, quasi universal unit. Then Juden Jikan Ensan Hoho, it's a charging time calculation method, again quasi universal. Oyobi is a simple word and need not be taken as a unit. Again, only one technique is used here in this particular case because that was enough. Slightly difficult. Gan o shochisuru tame no cephalosporin no shinki yudotai. In fact, it's not difficult because the words are not familiar. It appears difficult. Shinki you have done already. Yudotai is derivative. So if I say shinki yudotai is a new derivative, and then there is something called cephalosporin. Sporin, you must have heard sporin something, the medicine. So it's cephalosporin, and a new cephalosporin derivative for treating cancer. Let's see how we arrive at this. Domain specific units. Gan Oshochi Surutameno is one quasi universal unit. If you want, you can further break it down, but this is quite understandable, so no need. Cephalosporin no shinki yudotai is simple term is cephalosporin, and then shinki yudotai is compound term, which is or a unit. The unit 2, cephalosporin no shinki yudotai, could be either cephalosporin no shinki yudotai or cephalosporin toyu shinki yudotai. So that is derivative of cephalosporin or derivative called cephalosporin. So equivalence in this case carries forward the ambiguity and therefore can be taken as single unit also. I hope you have understood. In one case it is saying that that means something called cephalosporin, and in the other case it's giving the sense of no, that is off. So that ambiguity is there. If we translate it as new cephalosporin derivative, that ambiguity is taken care of, it is taken forward. The next example, no, it's the same example we are trying to apply now. 5W1H. どんなものですか? 新規誘導体。何の cephalosporin の so it's new derivative of cephalosporin 何のため処置するため for treating if it is treating 何を処置するのか so がんを so cancer new derivative for cephalosporin for treating cancer some fine tuning new cephalosporin derivative for treating cancer and you have arrived to a quite reasonable translation of something which is difficult to translate, that is the title. So application of 5W1H and the unit, either can be applied if you find that only one helps, and if you think that two are required, then two can be applied. And one more example, cephalosporin yudotai no chukantai oyobi sono seizo hoho. Let's see one more example of a patent title. Cephalosporin yudotai no chukantai oyobi sono seizo hoho. Now, when we say chukantai oyobi sono seizo ho, both are nouns. So it's A as well as B of cephalosporin yudotai. The final translation is intermediate of cephalosporin derivative and its manufacturing method. But let's see how it is arrived at. The domain specific unit, first one is cephalosporin yudotai no chukantai. So intermediate of cephalosporin derivative. It's a reverse translation if you see. Intermediate, last, of, and the rest part is one word, that is cephalosporin yudotai is cephalosporin derivative. It's a quasi universal. Sono seizo hoho is a compound term or a unit, it should be taken. Seizo hoho particularly. Sono is its manufacturing method, so it goes for sono. Cephalosporin yudotai no chukantai, and no is the kette yoso in this case. So it's very important. So it could have been translated as cephalosporin derivative intermediate also. Now let's try 5W1H on this. First is nandeska, it's a chukantai intermediate. Nan no chukantai, so cephalosporin yudotai no, so intermediate of cephalosporin derivative. Any other information? Sono hoka oyobi. So if oyobi is coming and, that means there is something else. Soreva doshta. Sono seizo hoho. So its manufacturing method. This is how you try to put 5W1H various questions. In the process, you become clear what is being talked about in the original sentence. So when you write the equivalent English, you are already knowing where the focus should be, and the translation will come as intermediate of cephalosporin derivative and its manufacturing method automatically from your mind itself. But if it is too long sentence and if you're finding it complicated, then you apply 5W1H again for transposition. The learning of this module, 5W1H going to helping in frame capturing plus unit, and again 5W1H to capture the English equivalent, or you can say to transposition to reframe, or you can even apply 5W1H to capture frame and again apply 5W1H for transpositioning. These are found effective approaches here. Application of unit concept makes the job mechanical. Mechanical means it's easier, but easier that much. It will not have the touch, the feel which you normally desire. Apply all techniques, and this practice will gradually optimize the overheads. Overheads in the translation means your headache, the time required, the efforts required will reduce. Keeping aside initially the adjective, adjectival clause, multiple nouns helps. Proper noun may be translated, may be transliterated, sorry, and possible meaning may be given in parentheses if need be. Unsaid part in Japanese, for example, Tawa and then balance was unsaid, is very common. Now this needs to be handled contextually. Sometimes you may have to bring in something, sometimes is alone is sufficient for this. Possible scenario, number of verbs in a sentence is equal to number of frames. This is one of the possible scenarios. Domain specific units may be applicable in other domains also, but needs careful application. What I mean here is that something you have collected in the case of patents may apply probably in the case of legal or maybe contracts, etc. also, but you must apply it in a very rational and pragmatic manner. And international codes such as INID codes are very useful for the universal applicability, so one must be familiar with these codes. These are the references for this particular module, and thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimashita. See you again for translation practice in module 19. We will do more and more practice from here onwards. Thank you very much.